I'm not just living in this body, having this human experience alone, that there's a lot of energy around me that's supporting me and guiding me and protecting me. And when I start to use the practices of tuning into those energies, I start to notice more and more of it.
Gabrielle Bernstein, a role model for spiritual seekers.
We all have the capacity to tap into the spiritual realm. We can choose it first, and then we can exercise tuning our energy into the frequency of the universe. And when our energy is in alignment with the universe, that's when we can hear, feel, see, smell, and know that spirit is around us. My first experience of meditation was my mom gave me a mantra, and it was so hum. It was from the Siddha Yoga movement. And that means I am that, I am that. And I would go into my meditation and I would repeat the mantra, so hum, so hum. And I would have my palms facing upward and I'd return to the mantra and return to the mantra. And within the first few times I meditated, I started to feel this energy passing through my hands. And I felt warmth around my body. And one afternoon I was with my boyfriend, and he and I drove to a house to stay over the weekend at the beach somewhere in the Hamptons, maybe, I can't remember. And I just remember the house very vividly. And we pulled up to the house and I was feeling super anxious. And they said, you know what, Spencer, I'm going to go up to the bedroom in the house just for a second. I don't even know where I'm going. I'm going to find a room and I need to meditate. And so I remember going into this tiny little room and sitting on this single bed and closing my eyes and placing my hands facing upward and repeating the mantra, so hum, so hum. And again, that energy, that feeling of my extremities starting to tingle and my whole body starting to relax, and a softening inside, and the anxiety just lifted. And it felt like a warm blanket surrounding me. And that energy was an energy beyond my physical sight. And it was a feeling and a sensation that there was a presence around me. I didn't know really if I had words for it, but imagery-wise, it felt like angelic and soothing. And I didn't really understand or know about spirit guides or angels then, but I just knew that there was a spiritual connection happening. And it was undeniable for me. And so from that point on, I really started to connect to it more and more frequently. And I always knew it was there. Even when I turned my back on it, in my 20s, when I started to use drugs and alcohol and get really disconnected from it, I knew it was always there. As a young child, it was there, but I didn't have words for it. And so my mom would take me to these ashrams when I was like 5, 6 years old, 7, 8, 9. And I'd be named by the guru and meditating and running around. And I would feel, particularly when I was like 10, 11, 12, feel really, really anxious when I would leave. And what I came to understand later, and I can't remember if it was my mother that explained this to me or a therapist or somebody, was that when I would go to those places, a lot of wounded people go to ashrams or spiritual centers because they're seeking, they're looking for help. And so if you're a child or you have a channel that's open and you don't know how to shut that channel and you're so open, you can pick up a lot of stuff. And so I would go into these places and without any boundaries energetically, I would just pick up so much energy and it would create more depression and sadness. And so as I've grown up and developed spiritually, devoted my life to spirituality, I know how to open it and I know how to close it and I know how to listen and I know how to get back into the world and go back into the spiritual realm, and I can have a conversation and shut it down. I also know, like right now, I could start channeling here, but I'm like a little tired, right? So it's been like a very big week for me. My son's been waking me up at 5 a.m. And so I know enough to be like, okay, Gabby, don't go wide open right here. Although, I have access to it. So that boundaries and awareness. It's like you're not going to go to a party when you're super tired. Well, one of my medium mentors sort of said that like your energy field is like you can have a cloak around it. And so when you want to open up your energy field to receive spiritual information, you can open your cloak, even when you see people meditating with their palms upward to receive energy. And then the same goes for when you want to shut it down. You want to go back out into the streets of New York City, or you have to go on, get off of a stage in my case and go do a book signing. I have to close my cloak. So I actually sort of visualize like I'm closing the shutters or like putting a cloak around my body and shutting it down. When a message is trying to come through, like because I'm available as a medium and because I have that access, and the more healthy I become in my life, the easier it is for that access to turn on and turn off, the more I can connect to spirit. So I can hear a guide speak to me, or I can hear a message, or I can tune in energetically. If I'm trying to put my son to sleep, I can also use the energy of the universe and the energy of spirit. So I could, do Reiki on him and put my energy in my hands and offer him that softness. It's just like being in conversation with humans. Being in conversation with the spiritual realm is the same. You'd open the door by asking, and then it is given. But that's a practice, like any practice, right? You learn how to communicate with humans the same way you learn how to communicate with the spiritual realm. And so when you listen to shows like this and you start to open up to these kinds of practices, you start to receive signs from the universe, and you start to listen to, read books like The Universe Has Your Back, or my book, Super Attractor, you start to recognize, okay, I'm not just living in this body, having this human experience alone, that there's a lot of energy around me that's supporting me and guiding me and protecting me. And when I start to use the practices of tuning into those energies, I start to notice more and more of it. I think I have a lot of clairsentient qualities. So I can sense spirit around me. I also have a inner knowing. So when I channel and I get information, it's also visual too. So I can, in my mind's eye. So guides will, when someone's guides are there and they're trying to give me cues, there are different cues that I get that are really common. Often when I'm with people that their guides want to tell them they're proud of them, I see clapping hands. You've seen me say that. They're clapping, they're so proud of you, they're clapping. So lots of clapping hands. Sometimes I'll see doors opening. It's like, oh, this is a path forward. So mediums have different, I once heard somebody say, I think it was this medium, I can't remember who it was that said this. She said she was a medium saying that when she was with someone who had a lot of plastic surgery, she'd see a rhinoceros. Like that would be her sign that like this person had a lot of plastic surgery or something. It was really interesting. So for me, I have these different signals for different things. For someone needs to write or type, my fingers will start like typing. That's like a sign or a message like, oh, you need to write about this or scribe this or like get it out on the page in a journal. My hand will start journaling. So my physical body will start moving a little bit just to give me these messages. They'll show me imagery in that way as guidance or physical sort of, my hands will start to do sort of physical things. If someone's been with you before, I'll get like the infinity symbol. My finger will start going in this like infinity symbol. And that implies that this is like a relationship that's been here before. And if something's a no, I can take a big X, no. And I'm just developing this more and more every day. I have two angel guides, Lily and Peter, who I feel them energetically. So Peter feels very masculine and like very nurturing. And Lily feels like this young, youthful, beautiful, blonde, very beautiful, like pixie kind of energy as a real guidance of you're on the right track. I feel my teachers, Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, I might get messages from them as them, right? So I shared that story about how I was asking Wayne for a sign and he said, I'll be your sign. And then later that night I was watching YouTube and his face came up on a short and here he was. And he said, what you see is evidence of what you believe. It was the exact message I needed to hear. I asked him for help. He said, I'll be your sign. Later that night, I'm watching YouTube and there he comes. That's how guides can come through. My grandmother is a big guide for me. She'll come up and she used to call me little nose, little nose. And so sometimes if I hear that or I think about, or I sort of like start tapping on my nose, I know it's my grandmother. The first is clairvoyance. This is when you have the ability to see the spiritual realm. So maybe you can see it in your mind's eye or you can see it in the physical. So you might see a spirit or see an angelic form. Or in my case, I see sparks of light or tinsel in the sky. Or sometimes I can even see an image in my mind's eye. That's clairvoyance. Clairaudience. This is when you can hear an inner guidance system, whether it's an internal hearing or an external voice that you may hear at times. Clairaudience. Then there's clairsentience. This is what I feel often. It's an inner feeling or knowing. It's an often physical sensation as well. So maybe your fingers get tingly or your hands get numb. Clairsentience. Claircognizance is an inner knowing, just a gut feeling. You know that this is the right choice. You know something is on the way. You know you have to move in that direction. Claircognizance. So which Clair are you? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video and you want to get more Gabby, check out the next one right over here.